Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. Hey, before we get started, I just want to say thank you to our sponsor, Emergo Academy. This isn't just another program, it's a life-changing, brain-first approach to recovery. You guys have heard me say I've actually personally taken the training with Dave and Susan Kenny, and it's completely transformed the way that I understand myself, my past, and most of all, really my healing. So if you're not even looking at wanting to become a certified crisis and recovery coach, I still highly recommend checking these guys out. And you may be interested in just taking their course because really it will change your life. When you learn how to use the brain first approach, you really can start changing your life in the way you think. And it actually really helps with trauma and other things that have happened in your life. So check them out, Emergo, Emergo Academy.com. So, our guest today is Will Bell. Will, thank you for taking time out of your morning to be with us today. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. And thank you, Amber K, for setting this
Yeah.
up. She's the one that introduced us. So, thank you, Amber. And today we're going to be talking about if your dreams don't scare you, they aren't big enough. And I really, really like this title. What does that mean to you, Will?
Uh, you know, I've always, ever since I was a young kid, I've always been capable and always dreamed. And I was just vicariously as a kid, I would want to live through TV and the things that I saw or whatever, because I never felt like I, you know, really amounted to anything because of my lifestyle, my circumstances, and stuff like that. And I always knew that I was held back. And so it just means, getting up every day, doing what you need to do, being bold, being brave. And if you feel you have a desire to do something, uh, uh, climb those mountains when everything's getting your way, basically. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what we do today.
I love that you brought the mountain part in it too, because, I like to say even in some of my public talks that, we pick a mountain and we start climbing it, right? And there's goals that we can reach. However, I'm one that feels like there's no finish line when it comes to bettering ourselves. So we climb that mountain, we finally reach the top, and we celebrate and we're excited, which we should be. However, when you turn around and look over your shoulder, you've just actually hit the bottom of the next mountain because that's how life works for us, right? We've always got challenges that's going to come forth, and you hear it all the time, your dreams. When you have dreams, we dream so big when we're kids, and then we become adults, and it's like we don't believe in ourselves enough to be able to reach it, especially when we're on the path of recovery, right? We just feel like you even said, like you're not quite good enough or you don't think you could do it. And then as you get going down your path and you connect those dots backwards, all of a sudden you realize, man, I've come a long freaking ways.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I think you know, grew up from like a broken home, don't know my mom. My dad was an alcoholic, drugs didn't really come around until I was a little bit older. But as a kid, I was raised to I was to be seen, not heard, speak when spoken to, you know, and in those moments I learned at a young age I just need to know my place. And if a door doesn't really open for me, whether it be my father or whatever role models are in my life, that I just stayed stuck where in whatever closet I was in, right? If you want to use that as an aspect. But I always had something as a young kid inside me, wanted to play sports, I just dreamed really big as a kid. And over the course of time, as I was developing as a kid, uh, there became a point in time where I just started acting out. Everything that I kind of wanted, I saw on TV. MTV was big at the time, VH1 pop up music videos. I was into action. I remember wanting to be a cop. I wanted to be a firefighter, all these things. And I was just torn in between it all. But at the end of the day, as a kid, I just kind of knew my place. I really didn't ask questions. We didn't come from a lot of money. My dad was barely around as I was growing up, being tossed around from home to home and stuff. And so I really didn't have my identity as a young kid and going in and out of school and stuff. And so I started seeking those things I saw on TV because they were right outside my window in some of the places that we lived at. And they were attractive, cars, and they had girls, and they had all these things. I just, the path that they were taking to get those things led me down the wrong, led me down the wrong way. And over the course of, you know, several stints in juvenile corrections, several stints in the Utah and St. George and Clark County jail, and then eventually making my way to prison for 6 times. Every single time I'm in there sitting inside those walls, and I'm like, I got to get out. I got to get a job. I got to do all these things. Now I want to do this. And I write all these ideas down, and I'll be journaling, and I educate myself, and I do all this work inside the walls, and I get out, and I fold it every time because for 20, 25 years of my life, I was I did it to myself, put myself out there to the world that they couldn't trust. I was doing bad things, burning every single bridge that come across, and so people didn't trust me. And I used that, and that gave me a bad taste in my mouth to use it as a way where it was like, screw you guys. You guys don't know me, right? And it was poor me, and that's the kind of attitude that I have. But this last time when I went in after ODing several times, waking up in the hospital several times, I'm like, something's got to give. I don't know what it is. I don't know how my life, I mean, I know how my life got here, but being the turmoil, me knowing when I lay my head down at night, when I go to sleep, the capability that I have, I'm like, why am I sitting here? I look around these rooms and I don't want this, but every time I get out, I fold. And I started just connecting that side. I mean, the higher power, whatever that looks like for anybody watching or whatnot, I just needed to find why am I here as a human being? I'm capable in all the other things. And so I started figuring that out. And uh, when I was in the Utah County Jail, June 14th is my restart, and I met Tiffany and Sarah. And everybody knows that there's jail talk and prison talk, and people aren't trusting us. If we say something, they take it with a little bit of weight or whatever because we always get out and we do the same thing. And I was tired of hearing that. And they're like, prove me wrong. And so I said, okay. And essentially, they used some vulgar words or whatever, and I took it. And as a man, having a woman tell me these things, like, prove it, I'm like, man, I don't like the way I feel. I don't know who I am. And so I dug in. I got a game plan. Uh, and I started hearing people saying, like, and through, you know, conversations, there was a lot of doubt, whether it was passive or whatever it was. And I'm like, these guys really don't think that what I'm telling them I want to do is possible. And for once in my life, I wasn't like, screw them. I got to the point like, okay, you have every reason to believe what you want to believe because my track record shows it. I'm going to do something different though. I'm going to get out and I'm going to do exactly what I say I do. I'm going to text every morning. I'm going to check in. I'm going to pass my UAs. I'm going to check every single box off. I'm going to start my podcast. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be a decent human. I'm going to treat people respectfully. When I fall short, I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to be transparent. And I have a responsibility to be able to do that today, to be able to let that reflect. And that's my thank you for all the bridges that I've burned and stuff like that. And since day one, uh, that's where someone mentioned that if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. And I just been blazing away, man. And I practice it every single day because I get uncomfortable. My whole life I've been in the gutter, and I've been taking and taking and taking and taking. That's really all I know. And so whenever I walk into a room, sometimes if you want to put the scale of a human being on a caliber, even though my belief is that we are all on an even playing ground. But in today's world, there is that caliber or whatever. And so if I feel like I'm if I'm a two, and I'm around somebody who has either been sober for 10 years or never done drugs, and they own a business and they own all these things, I walk in a room and I get uncomfortable, right? I feel like I don't have a voice. I feel like when I say don't matter, and that they're looking at me and they're judging me, but that's my own stuff. you
Hmm.
know. And so, and who knows at the end of the day what they're thinking, and and that's why I'm like I'm scared. Reach out to my mentors, and I'm like, it feels uncomfortable. I don't know if I should be doing this. This is a conversation that I had. It almost put me in a funk, but I got back up. I send the right messages to the right people because it takes a village, to be able to get to where we want to be. And, that's just why it's so big for me. And then taking on a role. Some people say that I'm moving too fast. Some people say, hey, you should be, I don't know at what length to stay when you're on in your recovery journey to where you just arrive. And so my philosophy before I got out on my restart, I'm like, I don't feel like there is You know, everybody is at different levels in their journey and stuff like that. And, you know, when they feel it inside their heart and they're moved or whatever, they're just going to pull the trigger on it. And so that's why, you know, yeah, man, it's been a crazy year. And dreaming big, it scares me. That's what I need. You know, running the streets and doing all the things that, you know, we do out there when we're doing those things. That's scary in itself too. And I'm like, if I could survive that for 20, 25 years, man, I could put my nose to it and do the things that I want to do. I started watching podcasts when I was in the county jail. You know, Amber Kay gave me your podcast, and I was like, there's something about these guys that are doing this and women that are doing this that's making a difference, because I'm sitting here watching it, right? These podcasts and stuff, and I'm feeling it. You know, I got some experience. I feel like I maybe have something to be able to offer to people. And I feel like this is the line of work that I want to do, is to help people and walk alongside them and meet them where they're at, to be able to hopefully one day just give them, you know, hopefully they can just see the light that there is something different. It doesn't matter where you come from, what the color of your skin, you know, your charges, whatever that may look like. It doesn't matter if you're actively using and you just want to show up somewhere and to be able to get it right. It doesn't matter if you're on Suboxone, it doesn't matter if you're on Adderall, but for some reason there's a stigma with all this or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all human beings just trying to live a decent life. And uh, with all that said, I'm just like, some people say it can't be done, but for some reason, the people that I'm surrounding myself with and having conversations like the guys like you and all this stuff, whatever, I'm able to like channel my beliefs and make all that possible. And all my dreams are starting to, I mean, they're coming increments, and I do think logical and stuff like that, right? You know, I can't drive a Mercedes or live in a big house or do all these things that, you know, some people want or whatever, you know, but my dreams look different from other people. But uh, yeah, man.
Well, you know,
Uh,
your path is your path, right? And I love that. I loved what you shared with that, because, you know, there has been some controversy even in the recovery community, right? That if you're not this way, you're not doing it right. This is the only way
right.
to do it.
Yep.
And if you use something like Suboxone or something like that, that's a crutch, you know, and sometimes people need a crutch to get them from point A to point B,
Mhm.
because not all of us are built the same, like you said, you know,
Yeah.
and it's hard for us when we've listened to the outside noise all our freaking life, right? And then you mentioned it earlier too about, you know, you know, using them when I, you know, like years ago, I realized, man, my whole life I played the victim. You know, the reason why I acted the way I was acting is because you said something or you did something or because of this or because of that. I wasn't even taking my own accountability. And when you start taking on your own accountability, as hard as it is at the start of it, that's when you really start seeing your life change. Because I know it changed me. It changed me a ton. It helped me with my ego. You know, it helped me realize I don't need to listen to the negativity of other people. You know, something else you mentioned too, Will, about surrounding yourself with the right people. You know, and it seems like, at least for me, when I decided to make a change, gosh, I get emotional a lot of times talking about this. When I decided to make a change, God started putting the right people on my path.
That's true.
And then that person was either there for a short period of time and they're gone, or they're still with me and they've helped me get to another path where I find someone else that's there waiting for me. And it's just kept going. And it seems like that's where you're heading right now with your life, right? The outside world thinks when we want something, we got to have it right now. And
Yeah.
and we do everything to control it. And when you can finally throw in the towel and tell your higher power, which is God for me, it's like, man, I'm just going to go with the day. You got control. I'm going to go wherever my life is going, and whatever pops up, I'll deal with it the best I can. And I'm probably going to need your help and other people's help possibly to get me through it, because we can't do it alone, as you said. You know, we've got to have something or someone to help us to that next level. So thank you so much for sharing that, you know, that part of your journey. And as far as I'm looking at it right now, in the short time we've just met, you're already helping people. You know, you are, just by being on other podcasts and being on this show and using your voice. And you're already doing it, Will.
Yeah, it feels like it. I get the increments, and then I have the the adversary, whether it's outside noise or internal noise that I deal with or whatever, to that tells me I need to know my place. I need it creeps up in every single day. I mean, before we got on the show, I was talking to my partner. I was like, hey, I'll get ready to go in here. This is what's going to go on or whatever, right? And it starts creeping. Like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? But as you spoke on the spiritual side, it is through him. And I made a commitment that when I feel it inside me, it's like I'm just gonna go. He's ushering me, whatever it is, to usher me to go do something decent. And at the end of the day, the intent is good. I know that you can't go wrong with it. He's not going to set me up for failure. And if I deal with adversity or whatever bumps come in the road while I'm doing it, there's a reason. There's a reason why for 20, 25 years I went through what I went through. And I've learned to say that when I got out and my license was taken away, I was riding a bus. There were some people that were like, "Hey man, I'll give you a ride," because it was an hour and a half bus ride to work, and then I had to find a ride for an hour and a half back, right? And I said no, and that's when I stuck. I wanted to say yeah, right, but I'm like no, and they're like, "What do you mean no? I'll drive there and give you a ride." And I'm like, it's part of the story. And what got me on track on my spiritual side is the chosen. It sounds corny, whatever that may look like or whatever, but it was powerful to me, man. I sat there my whole life. I was raised in the church and bounced around, attended different churches and things like that or whatever, but nothing made sense. I just saw people in fancy clothes, and their kids looked at me weird because I had tattoos or whatever that may look like, right? And I'm not. This isn't about judging what they're doing, but I felt that, and that's my own stuff because of the lifestyle that I was living, and that's my fault. But watching The Chosen gave me a different perspective. When he walked into the villages, the places where he went to, I knew that he came here for me. I knew that he came for the people who were struggling. Because if you had the faith and you had all this going on, whatever, he knew that you were good. He was trying to build faith in the communities where they were lacking in that. He wanted to be able to show them. And for some reason, watching that and how he did it and how he spoke in parables and how everything, when he speaks to me now, I'm like, why couldn't you have told me this 10, 15 years ago? But I knew that when I started praying, right, asking him to teach me his ways instead of just asking him for handouts, it started bringing clarity into me in the way that I process things. And there were signs my whole life, whether it was my school teachers or the PE teacher, or passing a cop and him not flipping around and me thinking, "Dang, that was close." I said I need to tighten it up right now, or whatever. Right? He sent every single sign. And I know several of them. Um, and watching all those things, and I was like, "Man, just teach me." Uh, put my faith in you. And since then, since my restart, just a couple of things. I've never met my brother. Crazy story is you know, uh, a half brother. Uh, 2 years ago, I went to Phoenix, Arizona to meet a cousin. His name is Thomas Foster. He lives in Texas, retired from the military, and he's a year older than me. And my cousin's like, "Hey, someone reached out on the family tree. They say they're related to us, but a lot of people reach out and they ask for money or things like that or whatever. So they kind of ignore it." A year went by. He got in contact with him again. So they got in contact with my dad's sister. And my dad only has his sister and just him. So they did their DNA test in, and it came back a match that he was the son of her sibling, and so which is my father. And my father's still kind of in his addiction now, and all this. And so, long story short, over a few text messages, and then like about a month ago, he's like, "Hey man, just so you know, I'm gonna be coming out to Utah," and I'm just like, How is this happening? I'm getting ready to meet a dude I've never met. I get him on my Facebook. I'm a diehard Miami Dolphins fan. His whole family's diehard Miami Dolphin fans. It's like the irony of all of that is like it's chilling. And then walking into Logan to meet him last weekend was just it was uncomfortable, I would never think that that would ever, dream to become true to be able to meet that. I've only seen that like on Oprah or Maury or whatever, when you're watching those shows and stuff like that where people get reconnected. Um, my kid's mom's mother passed away like a week after I got out, and I was able to show up for her. My daughter's adopted, but I'm still in contact with her mother, and being able to show up and help my kid's mom, who has a background, and she's doing wonderful work in the community right now for helping those that are struggling, and being able to show up for her in those times, and then watching somebody in the powerfulness of the church being in the room and watching her take her last breaths and things like that, and then telling they're going to pull the plug, and seeing a relationship that almost made it to its 52nd anniversary, and her husband holding her hand and he's on oxygen, telling her that she can go, all these things. And I'm sitting back and I'm like, well, this is a lot. Like, I would have never thought I would be in this situation. I brought a daughter, my daughter is this family, right? And I lost them. I lost my daughter, and I'm watching somebody now leave this world. And all my overdoses, every single one of them, they weren't just half overdoses. In the last year and a half, I have like 6 or 7 of them where they're either busting the window out of my car. I was either found in my car in the desert in Nevada, where I didn't make it out of it, or I was waking up in a hospital. And it clicked. And as I'm sitting here watching this lady take her last breath, barely hanging on to life, I'm like, that could be me. That was me. And seeing the relationship, because I have, objectifying women has been a big part of my life. And that's something that I'll continue to work on to the day that I die. But I got it in check now, but it's a practice daily. And to watch a relationship that's almost made it to its 52nd anniversary, and how he was, the bond that was there, like the spirit was in the room, and I've never felt that before. And the connection of family, and to be able to see my kid's mom, who is, the black sheep of the family, being able to run all the opera and to be able to juggle all these things, it's like I can see it now. I don't have to make poor choices and do all these things and stuff like that. And you know, um, uh, ended up going bouncing around with living situations where I show up one place and a week later I'm asked to leave, and then landed in another spot because someone was able to give me a place to stay. Slept on their couch, literally at a sober living for like almost a month and a half. And made my way into a room, an ankle monitor, juggling probation, uh, finally got a job, not able to have a license. And then all of a sudden getting a phone call saying, hey man, uh, you're supposed to be on ankle monitor until February. Looks like we're going to be cutting it off December 30th. And I'm all, just the things that happen. And this is right when I took a job. And talking about moving, October 13th was my release date. October 13th. And now it's like all these connections of these people and just the intent, and whoever is above me watching out for me or whatever. I feel like, when I go to sleep at night, I know I sleep well. I don't got to worry about wearing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jackets, right? Whenever I walk into a room, because that's how my whole life I've been. When I show up now, I just show up. And to be able to have a position, to be able to get a phone call saying, hey, there's a new program in Salt Lake City. Uh, it's a new startup. They have supported housing. It's rent free as long as they do their treatment. We're going to start a Watercourse Way College that alumni and graduates can be able to go through and get scholarships to be able to get trades and do all that they want to. We'll have wraparound services. We'll have providers. We'll be able to demedicate, medicate, whatever that looks like to fit the person, and have all the components of MAT and all these things in this one giant, big, bold idea, right? And it seems scary to some people, but to be offered to be able to go check it out, see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, is being able to have a position doing admissions and outreach for Watercourse Way, a brand new startup. And the day I started, we had 0 beds. And whatever energy is around me right now, they asked, "Are you going to be able to tackle this on?" And I just started just doing what I do. And when something moves me to be able to go do that. So that's another miracle in itself. And uh, sitting here today, having a conversation with you, all these things since October 13th have been taking place in my life. And it all started with getting up in the morning and sending a text to this lady named Sarah and Tiffany that run the RISE program. And then I sent another text to a mentor and just tell them what my thoughts are. every single morning, that accountability piece. And when I get ready to make a big decision, I shoot them a text. Say, hey, this is what I'm getting ready to do. What you want to think? That's kept me grounded. And but yeah, man, the spiritual side is huge with me right now. It's huge, you know. I practice praying. I practice just being a decent person. I believe in my heart. I think those around me see it. That things that I want to do in my life, the dreaming big and being bold and being courageous and being uncomfortable, it's going to happen. It's going to happen when the time is right, obviously. But I'm just having faith that everything that I'm doing is just going to save me in the end. I don't want to be that little dash. You know, what's going to fill up your dash when you're gone? Nothing to fill in there. You know, I've been released for 20 seconds, and hopefully I'll make a dent. I can play a small part in the recovery community out here, getting people to where I'm going. Uh, but yeah, man, it's powerful.
You know,
Crazy.
this whole journey, everything that you've shared, I want to go back just a little bit where you talked about the chosen. I had the opportunity. I was actually on The Chosen. I was in season 2 on episode 4.
Really?
All 4 of my characters was in that episode 4. I was a crippled at the pond of um Busetta. Can't remember how they say it. But and then also I was like a merchant. They got a picture of me pulling a wagon with another guy, and it was when this guy holding a donkey walked up to Jesus and 2 of his disciples, and he spit at him. And anyway, I mean, it was just so cool. And when Jesus and his disciples came down the steps by the pool of Bethesda, and was helping that crippled man walk, the guy that kept trying to get there to heal, but
Yeah.
everybody would run over him because he couldn't get up and walk. I was sitting on the steps and he walked right past me. And it was so cool because there was 4 of us sitting on the steps. And I was a crippled at the time, so I had my crutch, and I was just kind of sitting like this, and I was just listening to Jonathan, who played Jesus. I was just listening to what he was telling this man. And Dallas, who is the director, a very, very nice gentleman. Everyone that works on the set of Chosen is just amazing people. He's like, all right, cut, let's just do a camera move and we'll redo the scene, because they do the scenes over and over with different camera angles. And when it was done, I had freaking tears rolling down my face.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, my gosh, these guys are going to think I'm a wimp, right? And I'm over here trying to wipe my tears off. And I hear something else, and I turn around and look to the left of me. The lady that's by me, just a few steps up from me, she's crying. The kid who was to the right of me, he's crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are crying too? They're like, that was so powerful. I'm like, I know, it felt like we was actually there when it was
Cool.
happening. You
That's
know, it
cool.
it was so freaking cool. And how you talked about how the chosen helped you by, Jesus going into these little towns and preaching the word and things. And you know, I look at it as everyone that he picked, he didn't pick the perfect ones, right? Because there is no such thing as a perfect individual. He picked the broken, he picked the liars, he picked the whore. He picked the person that was ripping people off, and he picked them because he knew that there was something inside of them. He already knew it. They just didn't know it themselves. And I find that with people like yourself, Will, who have gone through this big journey, right? And they finally said, okay, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. My life is going to change. Whatever that looks like, I don't know at this point, but it's going to change. And you start working on it. Like you said, that small little thing about sending a text, right? And waking up every morning and just go, hey, today I'm going to be good today, right? I'm going to do what I need to do. And I had a guest about 4 years ago on my show from Colorado, and she shared something very powerful with me. And her son, who was in his 30s at the time, was battling heroin. She was 30 years clean herself from heroin. And she was telling a friend at church that every time the phone rings, she just sinks. because she thinks that's the call that she's going to get to say that her son was found dead.
Yeah.
And her friend told her, said, there are ones that God knows their battles are just way too strong, and he calls them back home to get them out of the pain.
Yeah.
And then there are those who make it, like yourself. Those are the angels that walk amongst us because now they're out there in the trenches helping other people. And the reason why I brought back the chosen is that's exactly what Jesus did, right? He picked the broken to go help the other broken.
Yeah.
And that has stayed with me all these years because I'm going, my gosh, I'm surrounded by angels. I mean, I seriously am. I have so many good people around me. Not all of them have battled addictions, but they've battled other things in their life, and then I have some that have battled the addiction and lived on the streets and done all kinds of crazy things. Those are the angels, man. We're surrounded by them. And we have our spiritual and we have our higher power, but we also have the ones that we get to connect with sometimes on a daily basis to help us get from point A to point B. And, you said something earlier too about, you're praying and nothing's happening. And when you said it reminded me of something I was telling a friend once who was out at Grantsville watching motocross. And it's a good friend of mine from Colorado. We used to work construction together back in the 80s. And it's kind of crazy because we both used to party a lot together, and he loved to fight. He would just go pick a fight just to fight because he loved to fight, and he's changed his whole life around, and I've changed my life around. And we're out there talking, and he's like, dude, are you praying? And I'm like, man, I'm praying like crazy, but nothing's happening. He goes, how do you know nothing's happening? And I says, well, I'm searching for answers and that. And he goes, more than likely you're not listening. And that hit me pretty hard. You said you went back and you started seeing little signs that he was giving you. But we're so wrapped up into ourselves and our ego, and it keeps us from seeing those signs that he's given to us, right? And we go past it like it's nothing. And now we get to a point in our life where I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but I don't think you take anything for granted anymore, right? It's like there are so many things, even the hard things, right? Even the hard stuff that we have to go through is a blessing. And I shared in a public talk that I did about losing my leg. I lost my leg in on March 7th. I had a below the knee amputation due to a medical procedure. And 4 weeks after that, I lost my wife. And I was saying that I remember waking up in the hospital every single morning and looking down and not seeing my leg, and I'm crying, right? I'm allowing my emotions to go through what they needed to go through. And for the first time, well, not for the first time, but most of my life I didn't. That's why we numb ourselves, right? It's the emotions of everything and we don't want to feel, we don't want to deal with it. So we numb ourselves by doing other things. And I would allow my emotions to go through their course, and then I would go, okay, take a deep breath. And it's like God has handed me a blank piece of paper and a pen, and I can write this new story however I want to write it. And I'm going to write it with positivity, and I know bad things are still going to pop up because that's what life, I call them shit balls. Life likes to throw shit balls at us. Sometimes they hit us square in the face, and it's nasty and it sucks, you know. However, when we look at ourselves in the mirror and we look for the lesson behind it, usually, even if we don't see it right then, usually down the road, we end up seeing it because we realize that's exactly what needed to happen to us to get us to a different point in our life. And it sounds like that's what you have been seeing so far too.
Yeah. You nailed it. Yeah. I did a post the other day where miracles, like where their miracles are everywhere around us and they're inside of us happening daily. And it's just, I'm telling you, man, since, June 14th, the day I got booked in jail, it's like, I mean, through seeing the guards, through having conversations, the way I was inside the county jail around some of the guys was completely different. And sitting in there and it happened to be the chosen. And one of the guys he looks just like, I can't remember the actor's name that played Jesus or whatever. He looked just
Jonathan.
like, yeah, he looked just like him. And he says that he was gonna like, he's the one who kind of got me to watch the show. And he's like, yeah, I had a role. They did my takes on it or whatever. I was gonna be play the chosen. He was in there for X, Y, and Z charges or whatever, and really spiritual. And he started. It was weird. We were walking down the hall. I just got accepted into the kitchen, and we're walking down the hall. It's my first day at work, and there's this guy standing behind me, and he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, "Hey man, what's your name?" I said, "Will," and he gave me his name, and he's like, "I want you to know that God has a purpose for you, and that you are one of His disciples." And I can't remember the other terminology that he used or whatnot. It's like a room or something like that. I can't remember, but um, uh, and I just thought it was weird. Typically, I would be like, "Man, this dude's on weirdo stuff or whatever," right? And I'd keep pushing. But and that's how the rest of the guys treated him. No different than the way I used to treat them. You know, they just they don't feel it yet. But I would go back, and these guys would be giving him crap because they get him all spun up and stuff like that, and he'd be talking, and but I'd pick his brain. And I'll never forget that I was having a conversation with a guy. He was sleeping on his bunk, and me and this guy were talking, and we were talking really low. And dude sits up, and he's like, "Hey man, come here." Lifts up his bunk and pulls out a piece of paper and gives it to me. And we were talking, me and this individual were talking spiritual stuff. And what he wrote that day when we were at the kitchen was the exact conversation I just got done having. I'm not telling you, 2 seconds prior. And then after that, because the guys in the dorm didn't want him talking about God and stuff like that, when I was walking laps, he pulled me aside. He's like, "I'm letting you know right now, God is with you. Like you are special to him." And I'm like, he's like, I set up and something just told me to pull this from under my bunk and give it to you. And I'm like, "You didn't hear the conversation that we were having?" He's like, and I'm trying to poke holes in it or whatever, at the time. And he's like, "Man, do you think I would have that under my bunk and you having a conversation with a guy that I don't even talk to and it being the same thing? Do you not think that that's like him speaking to you?" And that's what got me on the path to it. I was freaked out, whatever you want to call it. And but yeah, man, it is, man. It's daily practice to be able to do those things and to be able to face those things and just make good choices and uh, to feel what he has to offer. And my recovery now, what that looks like is just doing exactly what you said, man. I know he's got a way, and I practice getting up daily and not letting those things and just breeding positivity. The world needs positivity, and there's so much negative going around, but everybody's fighting for peace and everybody's doing all this stuff, right? At the end of the day, it's their perspective versus this person's perspective or this organization's perspective. But the end result is we want peace, you
Hmm.
know. Even the people out there in the third world countries that are out there killing people. I mean, when they go to, if they don't have a dual diagnosis and they're fully capable of doing those things, I guarantee when they lay their head on the pillow, if they're sitting there with a gun or whatever they're at, they're scared they're going to be killed. They want to find some type of peace, and it does, and that's universal. And uh, you mentioned something about surrounding yourself with people who may not have done use drugs, or some people that have, and I think they all, like you said, they all have something to offer. Feelings are universal, and like you said, those people who haven't lived the lifestyle that I've lived, or some of us have lived, is that they still go through things. And that is so true, because when I get released from the county jail, the drug problem is fixed for one. I'm sober, but when I get out, it's like life smacks me, and I'm like, I don't know which way to go. I'm being tossed here, I'm being tossed there, and that's my own fault for the choices that I made. But uh, it's how I feel about myself, my self worth, people that I surround myself with. Because when we start feeling those things, we typically want to isolate, and then we want to go use to be able to forget about the things that we're doing. And but those feelings that we feel, it doesn't matter if you've lived a life or if you're sitting on the 25th floor and you're executive director of a program or whatever it is, and you've never used, we all feel those feelings. I choose to stick a needle in my arm. They choose to go back to their family and surround themselves with their kids and stuff like that and just make it to their pillow and make it through another day. And
Yeah.
so definitely the way we feel is huge, and connection. I can't push connection and accountability. Accountability right now, than just making my dreams come true. It's huge when it comes to recovery. That's what gives us solid ground to be able to be accountable for who we are, the way we walk, the way we talk, things like that. And someone says something, there's nothing more freeing in this world than when someone says something to me, that whether I know it, didn't know it, or whatever, is just saying it for what it is. I sleep good now. I even take naps sometimes in the daytime because I sleep that good. And so that's definitely important in the journey. So
Yeah. And talking about peace, it's like all our journeys are different, right? However, and I think we all have our own way of seeing or feeling what peace is to us, right? Which I think the feeling still comes down as mutual. It's the same, but it's just kind of how we look at it, where we set ourselves to go, I'm peaceful today. It's something that I've been doing for the past couple of months. I started taking another training to learn about the brain a little bit more. And something that the teacher that was teaching us said that he does every single morning. And I've taken that on as well. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I look at myself in the mirror, eye to eye, and say, thank you, God, for this day. Thank you for giving me another opportunity. And I look at myself and say, I love you, Al. And I am extremely grateful and full of gratitude with what I have at this time. And it's changed my life just doing that for 30 seconds in the morning. Just look at myself in the mirror, and then I have my other morning routines that I go through. But yeah, I decided to try it because he said it changed his life, and it has really changed mine as well. And I was sharing it with a lady that I know at the gym that I talk to every once in a while, and she actually came up to me a week ago and said, Al, thank you for sharing that with me. She goes, I started doing it and has made such a big difference in my life. And I'm like, that is so cool, to see like what we talked about at the beginning of the show, the ripple effect. We don't even know with what we're doing, just your story today and what you're sharing and your vulnerability and opening up. Somebody who needs to hear that is going to hear it. Somebody is going to listen to this show and go, oh my gosh, that's exactly where I'm at in my life right now. If Will did it, I know I can do it. So again, our vulnerability speaks volume and our voice speaks volume. And when we're not using it, I think we're doing a disservice. We got to get out there and we got to share and especially for us men, right? It's difficult for a lot of us because outside society, it's like if a man cries or if a man's going through some emotions or doesn't feel good that day and maybe a little depressed and he's just trying to deal with what life is giving him at the time, we're looked at as weak, and we're not. I have a lot of lady friends and they're saying, look, man, I really admire men who are willing to wear their emotions on their sleeve, right? They're willing to pour it out because that says a lot about them as a human being. And some of the stuff that you've been talking about reminded me of a men's group that I went to years ago. And I was in this men's group and there's probably 20, maybe 25 guys. And it's almost like an AA meeting. We picked a subject and then we would say why we're there. And then we would break off in little groups of three, four, or five, depending on how many men was there. And we would bring up that subject and what it meant to us. And I'm in this place and I'm with guys who have just gone through a divorce, guys that are in divorces, guys that are happily married, guys that are very, very wealthy, own their own business. I mean, it was a plethora of different lives. And to see the unhappiness and the hurt all these men were going through, I've never been in a room and saw that many men crying at once, ever, my whole life. And it was the coolest thing to see because I was one of them as well, right? I'm sitting at a table with four other dudes and I'm just got freaking tears pouring down my face because, I was down a rabbit hole. My wife was battling alcoholism and I was struggling on still working on where my life and stuff is going and trying to figure out what my why is and it was just so soothing, I guess, and it made me realize man, it doesn't matter. You could have all the money in the world and go out and buy whatever the hell you want to buy, and you still could not be happy, right? You can have come from a, I mean, I heard some guys go, my wife is amazing. She loves me more than anything. And, but this is where I'm at in my life. So even though they had some of that, they were still lost somewhere. And I really feel that when we hold all that in and we suppress all that, that's when we start making wrong choices because we're trying to cover it up in different ways, whatever that may be, right? It's not always drugs and alcohol for other people. It's gambling, it's sex, it's shopping, it's work. There's so many other types of ways of just trying to get out of our emotions instead of allowing ourselves to sit with them. And it's okay not to be okay some days. You know,
Yeah.
we can't go around. Well, that's a word I'm working on getting out of my vocabulary. I've realized the brain doesn't understand the word can't. So it's just not possible to walk around every single day happy and giddy and like there's nothing else going on in the world and everything's all sunshine and rainbows because it's not. But when we learn how to run towards the storm instead of away from it, it definitely helps us get through things a lot better.
It's that's exactly what Jesus had everybody do. He's like, you got to go through it.
Yeah.
I can fix this. I can make all this disappear, but you're going to come out and the experience and the things that we go through and the struggles and stuff like that. It's true. If we suppress them, which men mostly do or whatever, it never gets taken care of, and it's just going to leak out in other ways and stuff in life and stuff like that. And I'm a firm believer that you got to go through it. You got to sit in it. It's going to be part of the experience. It may be tough. It is what it is, but to better ourselves, we got to be able to learn how to be able to deal with it. And it may never go away, but it have as much weight in us if we learn how to go through and feel it. So that is
Yeah.
true. I got a question for you. I got a question for you.
Okay.
So since you do the you have a lot of people that watch these things. What is your advice on like giving? What would you tell those that watch your podcast uh, who know people who maybe not come from addiction because you've lived both sides? When they know somebody who's struggling, what's the best advice that you have? And hopefully I get nuggets from it too as I'm out in the community sharing what we have to offer. Because I'm sure I'll run into moms or relatives and things like that or whatever. What's like your advice or your thoughts, and opinion of what do you tell them the best way that they can help the people that they love be able to get in help as far as like enabling, allowing things to happen? Do they do this? Do's of this or don'ts of these? What would be your advice on that?
Well, that's a really good question, and when I do get asked that question, I share a lot of my story, right, from being on the both sides of things, and it's tough. It really is tough. I had a guest on here just not too long ago, and she said, "I would rather be the addict than being the person that has a loved one that is an addict." Because of how hard it is, especially if it's a child, right? If it's a spouse, it's one thing, right? You can divorce your spouse or you can do whatever, but when it's a child, it's tough. But you do have to set boundaries. You definitely do. And that is one of the hardest things to do. At least it was for me to set those boundaries and stick with your boundaries because we love this person so much. We want to do everything we can to help them. I remember once my wife's sister said something to her once when she was in a sober living about if they fixed her yet, and she come uncorked. Goes, fix me. I'm not fucking broken, she says, right?
Yeah.
You know, and but that's what we do, right? We do our best to try to help, and it's hard for us to realize we're not even helping ourselves. And we can't help anyone else if we're not helping ourselves first, right? Go back to the plane thing, right? If the cabin loses pressure and you put the oxygen mask on you first, that way you can help the other person. However, sometimes you got to do it from a distance, as hard as it is, and let them know still that you love them. You love them to death, that you want to see the best for them and they mean the world to you. However, when they're this way to help you, you have to remove yourself from that situation. It's like I told my wife many times, I'm like, you put forth the effort and you want to go to rehab or you sober living or whatever it is that you want to go, I will be there to support you 100% because I knew she needed that support. However, it's so freaking hard that when they fall back and they trip to give that support, right? Somebody shared something with me very powerful a long time ago, and I said, yeah, my wife's been through like 6 or 7 rehabs at the time, and I says after about the third time, she says she's going to rehab, and I'm like, yeah, so the hell what? Doesn't do anything for you. As soon as you get back out, I'm doing, I'm just being rude and ignorant and pissy. I'm being a complete asshole. But I was doing what I felt I needed to do to protect me, which was I could have handled it a lot better now that I know a lot more. And this person goes, Al, at least she never gave up. And I went, oh my hell. She didn't. She kept going. She kept going back, so she didn't give up. And that really resonated with me. So we can support those. You have to support them though with certain boundaries that you have to protect yourself because I ended up becoming addicted to my wife's addiction. It controlled my life as much as it controlled hers. And that's not a way to live at all. However, when you can pull away, when she went through her 2.5 years of sobriety, um, I changed a lot too. I started doing things a lot differently. And I really feel that, and I'm not taking accountability for any of her sobriety because she did all that on her own and with her higher power. And, it was, I just know I added to it a little bit by being able to love her from a distance
Yeah.
instead of playing in the same sandbox that she was playing in. And she got it. She got it. And unfortunately, after 2.5 years, life hit her hard again and she went back in it. But anyway, that's the best advice I could really give because the harder you try to help them go through it, it still has to be their choice. It's not our choice. If you didn't choose to do what you did, Will, you'd probably still be doing the same thing. And sometimes it does take another angel that God puts in front of us, right? This Tiffany girl that you talked about. My friend Mallory from St. George, she's the other co-founder. Her and I are the founders of the Healing Utah Success Summit. And she wrote a book called Inspired to Recover, and it was her parole officer basically that saved her, that helped her, and she messed up and she was getting ready to go back in front of the judge and probably get nailed with about a 20 to a 30-year sentence at the
Okay.
age of 19.
Okay.
And he said, what do I got to do to make you realize that your life is worth it? And she goes, I'm getting tired of people telling me what I need to do. I want to be inspired.
Mm.
And that man inspired her. And now she's
That's
out
cool.
doing what she's doing, right? She wrote a book about it and she talks about him a lot. And, she's going out and she's living her life and doing the best that she can to stay where she needs to be and keep on her journey. And she's gotten a lot of slack. She's gotten a lot of slack from the outside because she admitted that she likes to have a drink every once in a while, and her drug of choice was heroin. I mean, they used to drive down to Vegas and rob the hookers down there and take their money so they could go buy heroin. And she's gotten a lot of slack from it. That she is not truly in recovery because if she was, she wouldn't drink either. But again, that's her journey, right? She's not sticking a needle in her arm anymore. She's not
Yeah.
smoking anything anymore. She's
True.
raising 2 daughters. She just went through a divorce. She's not fallen back into anything, so who am I or who is anyone else to really say you're doing it wrong?
Yeah.
Because it's her journey. Your journey's your journey, man. And I have just been so blessed and grateful to hear what you had to share today because it helps me too, right? This is my therapy session as well because I get to meet so many amazing people like yourself, Will, and hear people open up and I usually get something out of every single flipping show that I can go, oh my gosh, I'm going to implement that into my life now to see where it helps, right? Because we all learn from one another as long as it's the healthy learning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question. It was kind of long-winded there, but
Yeah, you
yeah.
did. No, that was perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore on it. Yeah. It's just good to hear. Just to get it's good to be able to hear that people think and want to move the same way. It just enforces that a belief that I have is similar, whether it to be from distance or whatever boundaries that they set and that they got to stick to them. And whether it's, yeah, they're different, if it's a family member, if it's a spouse or whatever that may be, I feel that it aligns with what you're saying. And yeah, I hope that people can get the help they need, man. I hope someone gets something out of watching this or any of the ones that you do or have done or are to come. Uh, because I know it helped me sitting inside those walls, watching these, things that I thought were stupid shows, right? And it got some things were said, whether it was the wording, I've probably been told it my whole life, but the way I saw it and it was said it when I was watching it, it resonated with me. And for sure, say my life. And, yeah, hopefully, I can play a small part in that.
Oh
So,
yeah. You're already playing it, brother. Yeah, you're already doing it. Just by using your voice today, right? You're doing it. And you know, I'm always here as well. You got a friend for a lifetime over here on my side, and I don't even know you personally, right? This is the first time we've really seen each other's faces,
mhm.
but just by hearing what you're saying, and I mean, I really do feel really good about energy, and I'm feeling some strong energy coming from you, being on the other side of the computer. And those are the type of people I love being around, and I want to be around because they are so inspiring. And I'm in my 60s, but I'm not one that says, yeah, I've lived a life. You can't tell me what to do anymore, or you can't tell me this because I've already lived it. No, bullshit. I learned from my grandkids. My grandkids teach me things, and it's like, whoa, that is so amazing. Why the hell am I not looking at life this way, right? Because kids just go and be kids. They don't have all these worries like we do as we become adults, and they just live their life. And sometimes they throw their temper tantrums, but that's them just releasing what it is, their emotions, and then they usually get through it. And even like animals are the same way, right? You could have a dog and chew your dog out, and for doing something, and have the dog go outside or whatever, and 5 minutes later let the dog in, and the dog loves you like nothing ever freaking happened.
Yeah.
And so I think all of us as humans can learn a lot from seeing just even the seasons, right? Seasons change. So it's all possible for us to change too. It's just, do we want to? And talking about the adversary that we've had throughout the show, the adversary puts that fear in us, and that's his strongest playground right there. And when we have that fear, he's got us right where he wants us to, because it keeps us from moving in the direction we need to go.
Yeah. That's true. Well, I appreciate it. And yeah, I definitely want to love to link up and maybe invite you to come down and check out what we have at Watercourse Way. You got any invites to be able to attend? Just doing my best to immerse myself, in the community because it does take a village. I'm about that. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I appreciate it, man.
So yeah, make sure I have all that information because I definitely want to share it on the caption of everything.
Yeah,
So
I can send it to you. It's Watercourse Way.
okay.
We do sobriety housing, this wraparound treatment. We do neuro brain feedback. I think we do sound baths. We do acupuncture. It's free supported housing as long as they're doing their treatment. And but I can send you some. I can send you a link that you can get on and some information about it that you can do that. I would highly
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, please do, because I want to make sure that I want to throw that up there and let people know. So as we wrap up the show, gosh, we've gone an hour already. It goes by so quick. What is something that you have? Do you have any inspiration or um, anything you'd like to share to hopefully help someone on the other side here?
Yeah, I think that just to tie it back into the dreaming, it doesn't matter where you're at in recovery. It doesn't matter if you're day one or just thinking about it. Uh, uh, there is no time that you arrive. And so the moment that you have the idea before to change or do whatever you want in life, before that idea dies out and just becomes a thought, pull the trigger. It doesn't matter. We've dealt with adversity, and people telling us we're one way or we can't do this. I mean, that's just gonna be life anyways. The only thing that someone's gonna do is tell you no, and that's it. And it's gonna happen, and just keep pushing. But there are services out there. Educate yourself. For those who haven't lived a life, educate yourself and do your best to refer them to the appropriate people, for those to be able to get the help that they need. Because sometimes when you're in a relationship, or you're a mom, or you're a brother, whatever that looks like, we're so wrapped up on our biases and our opinions because of the way that we were brought up and raised, and we're just that protective figure of that person, that sometimes that gets diluted. Uh, Usher them to the right people, and dream big. Uh, that's just how life is. And I promise you, in the short amount of time, with the life I'm doing, 72 felonies later, 6 times in prison, and only being out in this short amount of time, that it is possible. It is possible, but it's uncomfortable. And whatever you want to do, no matter how big or small, just pull the trigger and just do it. And if you're looking for somebody or a community to be able to help you, reach out. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great advice. How would they find you, Will? Just could they find
Well,
you on the Watercourse Way?
yeah, so you just
Okay.
look up Watercourse Way Wellness, or will at watercoursewellness.org, and send me an email. You can also follow me on William Bishop Bell, my Facebook. It's a recovery page that I started. It's just my recovery journey. I also have the YouTube channel. It is called The Restart from Out of the Ashes with William Bell. Just documenting videos, conversations, whatever that may look like. I'll just start posting it on there, and hopefully something that I'm doing in my life resonates with somebody. So
Okay. Yes, please make sure I get all those links.
yeah, I will.
I didn't write them down because just in case I misspell something or miss something. So if you send me the links, I can just copy and paste it right on the stuff and make sure that everything's there.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you, man. Thank you, Will, so much for sharing your story and for taking time out of your day to spend with me and the listeners. Greatly appreciate it. Again, I want to say thank you to Emergo Academy for sponsoring the show, guys. I love you, Dave and Susan Kenny. You guys are awesome, and they're still my coaches to this day. I still, reach out to them even when I've got things that's going on in my life. And I want to say thank you to all our past guests and future guests. And most of all, I just want to say thank you to all our listeners. You guys are making this possible. We are in March, this show will be going on 5 years, and I still just scratch my head going, I just it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I didn't realize I'd still be doing this, and I don't plan on stopping. I don't have that desire yet where I'm sick of it. I still love getting on these shows and meeting amazing people like yourself, Will, and so many others. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody. And remember, we're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.